Hey everybody, thanks for watching. Many of you know or may not know that I worked with the Village people for about 6 years. I traveled the world with them, and I was a road manager and helped put together their live show. I redid a lot of their music, brought it up to date, and out on the road manager duties, getting people checked in and out of hotels. And when we did the shows, I mixed the live shows. In fact, the guys used to introduce me as the seventh Village person. I'm a people. I'm a VP, Village person. I've got many Village people stories, and I'm going to tell them. This one is how we did an overnight to Japan for a TV show. So we had just come back from I think like a month in Australia, touring around Australia. This is in the 90s, the late 80s, 90s. Yeah, early 90s. Sorry, I'm mixing up some of these dates. One or two of the videos, people corrected me, and you're right. I said Freddie Mercury was the 90s, and it was the late 80s. Keeping a lot of stuff in here. So I'm amazed at getting this much out. Anyway, we did like a month in Australia. I remember we got home and we were like exhausted. It was like a 32-hour plane ride. When we went to Australia, we would go New York to Houston, Houston to San Francisco, San Francisco to Hawaii, Hawaii to Guam, Guam to Auckland, Auckland to Sydney, Sydney to Melbourne. I mean, it was like, oh my God, you felt like a dried booger by the time you got off the plane. Well, anyway, we did this in reverse. And that's before they had the non-stop flights from LA to Sydney. And we get back in New York, and it was the next day, the phone rang and said, get the guys all together, you're going to Japan. And I was like, great, when? They're like, I think it was like tonight or tomorrow, you know, kind of thing. And I was like, oh my God, really? Yes. We booked on Northwest Airlines. It was like a last minute thing. They got us the last couple of seats on the flight. We were sitting in coach. I'm 6'4". I was in the back row, so my seat didn't recline, and the seats were very narrow, and this person in front of me put their seat back, and literally the seat back was like right here, right? So I remember standing most of the flight. I had to sit down during turbulence, take off and landing, but I mean, I was in a box. Anyway, we get to Tokyo, and one of the members, I remember going through customs, had a little Altoids case, and they kept their weed in there, but there was no weed in it. And I remember the official opened up the case, and right in the corner there was a piece, you could barely see my fingers, that big. He pulls it out with the tweezers. He says, we're going to inspect this, and if this is marijuana, you're going to jail. And I remember we were freaking out, like, oh my God. Anyway, it either was, and there was no THC or CBD for them to test it because it was so old, but I'll never forget that one. There was another customs incident for another story that I'll tell in another country. So it was for a TV show, which is like the American TV show, What's My Line? You basically get on the TV show and, you know, I'm so-and-so, and I'm so-and-so, and I'm so-and-so, and you have to guess the careers of these people out of their costumes. So the Village people were going to go on out of costume, who they were. And they also they filmed 2 episodes in the same time, and they had Tabitha from Bewitched on there with us. I'll never forget it. So they picked us up at the airport, and they picked up these 2 girls. And I thought, well, Tabitha was one person. Well, back then, and I'm still sure today, kids weren't allowed to be in front of the hot movie lights. Now lights are LED and they're soft and cool, but in those days they had those 1,000-watt lights, and children weren't allowed to work for more than, you know, I don't know what it is, you could Google it, probably a half hour or an hour before they had to get swapped out. And the 2 girls that played Tabitha were Erin Murphy and Diane Murphy, and they were fraternal twins, so they looked similar, and they would swap them out, you know, during filming. And that was the What's My Line, like, who are you, you know? I remember Erin was beautiful with big hair and big tits and makeup, and she was like, "Why, let's party." And the other one, Diane, was more conservative and, you know, really nice, just not as wild as her sister. So we did the TV show, and then after the TV show, the Japanese were going to take us out for a dinner. They were going to take us to a very traditional Japanese restaurant. And I remember Tokyo was amazing. We stayed in, or not directly in, or near Shinjuku, which is kind of their business district, as I remember. And there were like miles of underground passageways that had stores in them. And out on the streets, there were vending machines everywhere where you could buy anything. I mean, you could buy a live turtle or goldfish or hot food out of vending machines. And I remember there were so many stores on the first floor that the second floor started taking up space, and the McDonald's was on the third floor because there were no first floor spaces available. We didn't speak Japanese, but I think Jeff was with us as the cowboy instead of Randy. I'm almost sure, because he did speak Japanese. And Japanese are very nice, wonderful, polite people. But if you're not Japanese, there's kind of like at least then, there was kind of like a glass wall. And, you know, you're not Japanese, you're polite to whoever you're speaking to, but you're still Japanese. And I remember they were going, Jeff said they were saying things in Japanese like, "Oh, you know, you suck man," you know, in Japanese, knowing that we wouldn't do it. Or, "Ooh, tacky American, yes, you know, go F yourself," or stuff along that line. They were talking behind our back, and Jeff picked it up. And at one point he turns around and he said, "It's all good, don't worry," or something like that. He responded to them, and they were like, "Oh my God, you know, we've just been talking about these guys behind their back in Japanese," and one of the guys knew what they were saying. So afterwards, they decided to take us out to a traditional Japanese restaurant in Tokyo. And this is one of these places that look, you know, it has the Japanese roof and all wood. And when you went in, you took your shoes off, and on the side wall there was a cubbyhole box, and you put your shoes. And then you go into the main room, and it was all wood and paper drawings and stuff like that. Really amazing. And we sat on the floor to a very low table, and we had, you know, tea was served. The woman was a geisha, and they said, "We're going to give you sake." Sake in Japan, there's a certain sake. I think it's a certain sake was not sacred, but you know, you don't mess around with sake. And I remember Erin going, "Yeah, man, give me some beer," and she dropped the sake into let's do beer bombs, and she's drinking it up, and some of the guys are drinking up, and I'm going, wow, this is like getting unhinged really quickly. And I remember she got really, 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 really drunk, went to the bathroom, and in the bathroom, instead of a toilet, they had the hole. It was really traditional, the hole in the floor where you kind of squat down and position yourself. And she started going up to the bathroom, and our Japanese people who talked nasty about us were, you know, really losing face and all that kind of stuff. And I remember she came out and she was like, "What kind of freaking place is this? There's a hole in the toilet to take a leak in." And her panties were on, but her pants were half up, and she was pulling them up and staggering. And we went over and pulled up her pants and stuff like that. And needless to say, our Japanese hosts were mortified. We did the TV show. I've never seen it, how it went. Maybe there's something to be Googled or YouTubed or something like that. I wasn't on the TV. I was right off the camera. We did a couple of TV shows. I remember there was a TV show we did in Europe, and the guys were sitting on the couch and being interviewed by this, you know, interviewer. And he was obviously very gay, and he was like, "Well, you know, the village people," and the guys really went off on him, and they would go, "Big queen, big queen," and they would cough, "Big queen." Starting my dog off, he's a big queen too, buddy. Anyway, so that became like a joke every time we passed somebody in the airport, or somebody was talking to us. that was really over the top. We go, Queen. Anyway, Buddy, that's my dog chiming in. Yes, I know, Buddy. I got two dogs. Anyway, so that's a little fun Village People story. I have much crazier ones. We went to Iceland in the middle of a snowstorm, and Australia multiple times. We were in East Germany, and then a week later in West Germany when the wall came down, and I had a piece of the wall. That was cool. We traveled all around the world. It was really an amazing experience. I know people think Village People and roll their eyes, and so did I, and I'll tell that story, but it was a great way for me to see the world. I got to see the world for free. Right? Best education ever. Anyway, guys, there's a light little story. Thank you so much for listening. Buddy, thank you for listening too, baby. And Monkey's sitting here quiet, and Buddy's there barking. Thanks for listening. And please, if you like what I'm doing, hit the like button so I know I'm doing the right thing. And if you could subscribe, it helps the channel. And please share. Let your friends know. Thank you.